Hello, future engineers, subscribers, viewers, and students. There is an engineering review materials in mathematics, and I call this Algebra 1. And I will discuss the principles involving topics on arithmetic progression, harmonic progression, geometric progression, complex numbers, prime numbers, and significant figures. So we define an arithmetic progression as a sequence of numbers in which the difference of any two adjacent terms is a constant d. So, for example, we have the sequence of numbers 3, 7, 11, 15, and 19. So in this case, the common difference, which is denoted by D, is 4 because 7 minus 3, 11 minus 7, 15 minus 11, 19 minus 15 is 4. And in the second example, we have 125, 115, 105, 95, 85. This case, the common difference is negative 10 because 115 minus 125 equals 105 minus 115 equals 95 minus 105 equals 85 minus 95. The first term may be represented by a sub 1, and it is equal to a1 plus 0 times d. So if you check, 3 is equal to 3 plus 0 times 4, so it's still 3. 125 is equal to 125 plus 0 times negative 10. So it is still 125. The second term is equal to first term plus 1 times d. So d is the common difference, by the way. So again, the second term is equal to first term plus 1 times d. And the third term, by following this pattern, is equal to first term plus 2 times d, or it may be the third term is second term plus d, or simply first term plus 2d. So we can check that because third term 11 is equal to 3 plus 2 times 4. 3 plus 2 times 4 is 11. 105 is 125 plus 2 times negative 10, so 105. So in the arithmetic progression 3, 7, 11, 15, and 19, 11 and 15 are the arithmetic means. There are two arithmetic means, and the arithmetic mean is simply the average of these two. So if we continue the process, any intermediate term is first term. We study the coefficient of d, which is n minus 1 times d. So for example, if it is the first term, 1 minus 1 is 0, so that's why we have 0 times d. Third term, first term plus 3 minus 1 is 2, so that's why you have 2d. So any intermediate term, n term, is first term plus quantity n minus 1 times d. So that's the m term. And if we continue, the last term, an, is equal to first term plus quantity n minus 1 times d. That's the n term or the last term. We can also represent that by any intermediate term, an. So an is equal to an plus, so we replace 1 by n minus m times d. So the last term is also a sub m plus quantity n minus m times d. So that's the representation of the last term. So therefore, we have derived formulas for the last term. It's the m term is first term plus quantity n minus 1 times d, you may not memorize that, but rather this one. Uh, it's the two formulas are the same, except that this is applicable for any last term. So it's obvious by replacing the value here by just n. So last term is first term plus quantity n minus 1 times d, or the last term is any intermediate term plus the quantity n minus n times d. So in the arithmetic progression 3, 7, 11, 15, 19, and so on and so forth, we call 11 as the arithmetic mean. So the center element is the arithmetic mean because there are 5 terms: 3, 7, 11, 15, and 19. So of course 11 is the middle term, and we call that the arithmetic mean. Now if we extend the series and we add 22, because 19 plus 23, because 19 plus 23, 19 plus 4 is equal to 23, then there will be two middle terms, 11 and 15. And the arithmetic mean is simply the average of 11 and 15. So 11 plus 15 divided by 2 is 13. And that 13 is also the average between 3 and 23. 3 plus 23, 26 divided by 2 is 13. 7 plus 19 divided by 2 is also 13. So 11 and 15 are called arithmetic means. So if there is a specific average, the middle term, that's the arithmetic mean. So in this case, the first term is 3 and the last term is 19 if we stop at 19. So thus there are n minus 2 arithmetic means in general. So n minus 2, there are n minus 2 arithmetic means. So if we start at 3 and end at 19, common difference is 4, 7, 11, and 15 are arithmetic means, and there are 3 of them. So 5 minus 2 is equal to 3 arithmetic means. So we say after evaluation that the series is in arithmetic progression if the terms satisfy the following conditions. So that is, the second term minus the first term is equal to third minus the second term equals fourth minus the third term. So in general, the last term minus the second to the last term, represented by an minus a sub n minus 1. Now let's derive the sum of terms of arithmetic progression. So for the sum of terms, you may, by the way, you may use the formula summation notation in your calculator for finding the sum of arithmetic progression, but we will develop that later. So the sum is equal to the sum of the first term, second term represented by first term plus second term, and so on and so forth. So first term plus second term is a1 plus d plus third term a1 plus 2d plus dot last term. The sum may also be represented if we begin at the last term, an. So the second to the last term would be an minus d. Third to the last term would be an minus 2d up to the first term. Plus dot first term. So adding, so we have 2s. Notice that d and negative d will vanish, 2d and negative 2d out. So s plus s is 2s is equal to quantity a1 plus an plus quantity a1 plus an plus quantity a1 plus an plus quantity a1 plus an. And of course, there are n factors of a1 plus an. a1 plus an is common and there are n factors of them. Therefore, the right side may be represented by n times a1 first term plus last term. So therefore, S is equal to the average, or it is n times the average or the arithmetic mean between first and last. So S is equal to n over 2 times a first term plus last term. If you're going to interpret this is the average or the arithmetic mean. If the arithmetic mean, or simply the average of the first and the last. First plus last divided by 2, that's average or arithmetic mean. Then we multiply that by n. So that's the one formula for the sum of arithmetic progression. It's easy to remember. It is n times the average of the numbers from first to last. So AM is arithmetic mean or average. So we note that the arithmetic mean is half of the first and the last, second and second to the last, one half of second plus second to the last, plus dot dot dot, average of m and n minus n plus 1 divided by 2. So for all n, a sub m is the middle term, for n is add. And when n is add, the middle term is am, which is equal to the n quantity n plus 1 over 2 term, or this term here, n plus 1 over 2. That's the, when n is add, is the middle term. Middle term or arithmetic mean when n is add is the n plus 1 over 2 term. So to check, for example, for this 3, 7, 11, 15, 19, 11 is the arithmetic mean or the middle term, then it is equal to 5 because n is 5 plus 1 over 2. That's the third term. So 11 is the third term for this example. Also, since we know that the last term is equal to the first term plus quantity n minus 1 times the common difference from the preceding slides, so S is equal to n over 2, or 1 half of n times quantity first term plus last term. And the last term is given by first term plus quantity n minus 1 times d. So combining a1 and a1, another formula for the sum of terms in arithmetic progression is equal to n over 2 times quantity 2a1 plus n minus 1 times d. The arithmetic mean between two terms, a and m, is equal to 1 half of a plus m, or 1 half of m plus a, so that we can easily recall it. So it's easy to remember because arithmetic mean between a and m is also the average, so 1 half of m plus a. Then summation notation for the sum of arithmetic terms. So for example, if you have summation of quantity 2i plus 3 from I equals k to n, where I is a variable, not an imaginary number. So when I is equal to k, the first term would be 2k plus 3. The second term would be 2 times k plus 1 plus 3. And in general, the last term would be 2n plus 3. So all you have to do is first substitute for I equal to k, then the next is k plus 1, so 2 times k plus 1, then plus 3, plus dot dot dot, plus the last term, which is when n is n, 2n plus 3. These terms are in arithmetic progression, so it's easy to add, and we can use this formula instead of the formula we develop here, or we derive here. So the number of terms of the above notation is if it begins with k, I is k, and ends at n, then the number of terms would be n minus k, upper minus lower, plus 1. So if we have 5 to 12, so there will be 12 minus 5, 7, plus 1. There will be 8 terms for that case. So that's the number of terms of the above notation. Then we proceed to harmonic progression denoted by HP. The acronym is HP. So this is a sequence of numbers in which the reciprocals of the terms form an arithmetic progression. So it's easy, it's a bit challenging to detect if the terms are in harmonic progression. If it is difficult to detect, then first we obtain the reciprocals of the terms. Then if these reciprocals form an arithmetic progression, that's the time we conclude that the series of terms are in harmonic progression. But there are examples where we can easily detect harmonic progression, especially if they are represented by fractions and the numerator is always 1. So for example, 1/2, 1/4, 1/6, 1/8, 1/10. So these are in harmonic progression because once we obtain the reciprocals of these terms, we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So to deal with harmonic progression, we cannot use formula. Instead, we use the formula in arithmetic progression. Once detected as harmonic progression, we obtain the reciprocals, and since these reciprocals form arithmetic progression, then we deal with these reciprocals. We use the formulas and principles developed for arithmetic progressions, and for the harmonic term, we simply obtain back the reciprocal of that arithmetic term. So that's the first example. For the second example, which is challenging to detect, we have 5, 2, 5/4, 10 over 11, 5 over 7. So these are in harmonic progression, but we cannot readily detect this as terms of harmonic progression unless we obtain the reciprocals, which are 1/5 or 0.2, 1/2, 0.5, 4/5, 0.8, 11 over 10 or 1.1, 7 over 5 or 1.4. And this time, the series are in our arithmetic progression because the adjacent terms form a common difference, which is 0.3 in this case. So this is the notation. Once the series is detected as harmonic progression, obtain the reciprocals as suggested earlier of the terms and apply the concepts, principles, and formulas derived for an arithmetic progression. So that's it. Then we'll have the harmonic mean between A and M. So because A and M are harmonic terms, we obtain the reciprocal first, and those are the harmonic mean between A and M. So A, harmonic mean, M. These are the three terms in harmonic progression. The reciprocals would be 1 over A, 1 over harmonic mean, and 1 over M. That would be in arithmetic progression. Remember that we cannot deal with this, but rather we can only use or apply this suggested step here in order to derive the harmonic mean between A and M. So because these are now in arithmetic progression, by definition, second minus first equals third minus second. That is 1 over harmonic mean minus 1 over A equals 1 over n minus 1 over harmonic mean. Combining like terms, this is 2 over harmonic mean equals 1 over A plus 1 over n. Then by algebra, upon simplification, the right side can be simplified into n plus a over ma, where ma is the LCD. So finally, we derive the harmonic mean between a and n as 2 times ma over n plus a, or I read it as 2 mama, but to easily recall it, 2 mama. So product in the numerator, then in the denominator, n plus m and a are splitted as n plus a. Then we proceed to the next type of progression. We call this the geometric progression. These are sequence of numbers such that any two adjacent terms form a common ratio this time, and the common ratio is denoted by the symbol r. So for example, where r is more than or greater than 1, so let us say 3, so we have 2, 6, 18, 54, 54 times 3, 162. So r is 3 for that case, and for b, r is less than 1, we have 100, 50, 25, 12.5, 6.25, etc. In this case, r is 1/2 or 0.5. So take note that 50 divided by 100 is equal to 25 over 50, 12.5 over 25, 6.25 over 12.5, which is 1/2. In the same manner here, 6 over 2, 18 over 6, 54 over 18, 162 over 54, r is 3 for that case. So in this example, 2, 6, 18, 54, and 162, the terms between the first and the last are called geometric means, just like in arithmetic progression. So geometric means, the first term is still denoted by a1 and the last term denoted by an. And between first and last are geometric means. So therefore, there are, same as in arithmetic progression, n minus 2 geometric means in the series. So there are n minus 2 geometric means in the series. So the geometric mean is denoted by g sub n. The first term is denoted by first term times r to the 0. And remember, r to the 0 is 1 from algebra. Any number not 0 raised to 0 is 1, because that's also the same as that quantity divided by same quantity. So that's the first term. The second term is a1, first term times r to the 1. The third term is first term r to the 2, and so on and so forth. So any intermediate term would be represented by, so if it is this exponent of r is the subscript minus 1, general subscript 2 minus 1, that's 1. So therefore, any intermediate term of a geometric progression an is first term r to the n minus 1. That's the m term. And therefore, the last term is equal to first term times r to the n minus 1, the n term or the last term. So formulas that we can derive for last terms would be this formula here, or if we replace this subscript 1 by n, we must also replace this by n. So the n term or the last term is either a1 r to the n minus 1, a sub n r to the n minus n. So that's the formula for the last term of a geometric progression. So the geometric mean between a and n. By the way, the terms of the series are said to be in geometric progression when the following condition is satisfied. So we must detect first that the given progression is in geometric progression before we proceed to apply the principles and formulas derived for geometric progression. So that is, if the second divided by first equals third divided by second, fourth divided by third, and so on and so forth, last divided by second to the last. If that is constant and form a common ratio R, then we say that the given series are in geometric progression. So we also derive the geometric mean between a and n this time. So we arrange the terms as a geometric mean, then n. And applying the concept here, geometric mean second divided by first equals third divided by second. So that means geometric mean quantity square equals MA. That is the square of the geometric mean, or we simply square this, and this is equal to the product of the first and the third. Or any middle term, the square of any middle term is simply the product of the terms before and after it, directly before and after, or immediately before and after that term. So the geometric mean therefore is plus minus square root of MA, and we use plus if both M and A are even or are positive, and we use negative if both M and A are negative. So the next concept, or the next target, would be to derive the sum of terms in geometric progression. So simply we use the formula for the other terms. So S is equal to first term A1 plus second term A1R plus third term A1R square plus dot 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 the last term A1R to the n. If we multiply this equation here by R, then this becomes RS, this becomes A1R, A1R square, A1R cube, plus dot 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 A1R to the n. Then we write the equation here above and subtract it from this equation, and we have the following result. So RS minus S equals, we notice that A1R will be cancelled or will vanish, A1R square vanish, A1R cube, and so on and so forth, because before this term, or after this term, is A1R cube, and therefore we can cancel any intermediate terms, and what is left here is just the first term. So therefore RS minus S equals A1R to the n minus A1. So again, RS minus S equals A1R to the n minus A1. And also, if we break R to the n into R to the n minus R to the n, R to the quantity n minus 1 times R, and it becomes RS minus S equals A1 R to the quantity n minus 1 times R minus first term. So factor out S here. So we have S R quantity R minus 1 equals factor out first term A1 quantity R to the N minus 1. And likewise here, we note that A1 R to the N minus 1 is the last term. So this is S times quantity R minus 1 equals last term times R minus first term. So there are two formulas for the sum of geometric terms. We have first term quantity R to the N minus 1 divided by R minus 1. And the other formula from here is last term times R minus first term over R minus 1. But I suggest that you just memorize one. It's easy to memorize this formula if you also derive it. So we note that the geometric mean is the middle term if n is odd, while it is the square root of the product of the first and the last terms, square root of the product of the second and the second to the last terms, etc. for even number of terms. So for instance, by the way, that's the observation. You can check this for the example given before 2, 6, 18, 2, 6, 18, 54 times 3, 162. So take note that 18, the middle term, the geometric mean, is square root of 2 and 162. So it's 18. Square root of 324 is 18. Square root of 6 and 54. So square root of 6 times 54 is 18. And if we add one more term, this is 162 times 3, that's 486, I think. Then the geometric mean would be the square root of the first and the last term, square root of the second and the second to the last terms, and so on and so forth. So sum is quantity first term, quantity R to the N minus 1 over R minus 1, except R equals 1 because this becomes undefined when R is 1. Then for R, absolute value of R less than 1, if it is decimal less than 1, or it may be a negative fraction which is less than 1, then we just interchange position of the terms in the numerator as well as in the denominator. We can write this as first term quantity 1 minus R to the N over 1 minus R. So this is for all R except R is 1 because this will make undefined. And for the second part, this formula, we just simply multiply negative 1 in the numerator and negative 1 in the denominator to interchange position, applicable when absolute value of R is less than 1. So that's it for that case. So for the sum of infinite progression, in this case, the number of terms approaches infinity, and if absolute value of the common ratio is less than 1, then when absolute value is less than 1 and n approaches infinity, notice that R to the n approaches 0. So for example, 0.3 raised to 100, that approaches 0. 0.7 raised to 1000, that approaches 0. So that from the original formula, sum is first term quantity 1 minus R to the n over 1 minus R, because this approaches 0 when absolute value of R is less than 1 for infinite geometric progression. Then we simply set this to 0, and the formula reduces to sum of infinite geometric progression is equal to first term over 1 minus r. So the result would be this case, first term over 1 minus r. So next, we derive the relationship among arithmetic mean, harmonic mean, and geometric mean. So remember that the arithmetic mean is simply the average of first and last, or simply average of first a and n, or simply 1/2 of n plus a. The harmonic mean from the previous uh, video or previous slide is 2 2ma over n plus a, and the square of the geometric mean is equal to ma. And notice that if we obtain the product of arithmetic mean and harmonic mean, the result would be ma, which is this. Therefore, arithmetic mean times harmonic mean is equal to geometric mean square. So that's the relationship among the means. We then proceed to the concept on complex numbers. So these complex numbers are composed of a real number denoted by a and an imaginary part denoted by bi, the term. So complex number, if we denote that algebraically by z, capital Z, then it is equal to a plus bi, and we call that the rectangular form, where I is square root of -1. Take note of that. So therefore, I square, if I is square root of -1, I square is equal to -1, I cube is equal to I square, which is -1 times I. So -1 times I is negative I, so I cube is negative I to the fourth is I square quantity square, -1 quantity square, so that's +1. Notice that the cycle is repeated every 4 times, every 4 situation. So that is I to the fourth, or if the exponent of the imaginary number I is divisible by 4, and it is equal to 1. So that is I to the fourth equals I to the 8th equals I to the 4n in general equals 1 when where n is a positive integer. I to the 5 therefore is I to the fourth times I, so it goes back to I to the fourth times I, so it is I, because I to the fourth is 1, and times I is I. So we use this Argand diagram in determining uh, the term involving complex number, especially for I. So we have here the real axis is the horizontal axis, and the imaginary axis the vertical axis. The complex number is denoted by this point here. Then, because this is real, this is A and this is B, the value therefore is A plus BI, and 1, this is the positive direction where real axis 1 is -1, and that is I, -I. So 1 is represented by 4, I to the 4n in general. Then, because in counterclockwise direction, that's the positive direction, this is I, this I here is equal to I to the 4n plus 1. Then this is -1, which is either I to the 4n plus 1 plus 1, or I to the 4n plus 2, or simply I to the 4n minus 2. And of course here it's -I, which is I to the 4n minus 1, then I to the 4n plus 3. So my suggestion is to remember that I raised to power divisible by 4 is 1. Then in that is the positive direction. This is the negative direction. So for example, I to the 29, because it's 28 that is divisible by 4, I to the 28 is 1, I to the 29, so this should be I to the 29. It is I to the 1003, for example, since 1000 is divisible by 4, it is 1. 1003, so it's here because this is 1004, it's 1. So I to the 1003 is here. So it is negative I. So that's the technique. Then the conjugate of a complex number. The conjugate of a complex number is the complex number with the sign of the imaginary part oppositely changed. So let's have an example. Although you can use your calculator here. This is very elementary. So we have here the complex number and its conjugate in general. So complex number, the conjugate. So for example, if we have a plus bi in general, the conjugate is a minus bi. If the complex number is 4 plus 2i, the conjugate is 4 minus 2i. Negative 3 minus I, the conjugate is negative 3 plus I. And if you have 5i, then the conjugate is negative 5i. If you have 4, the conjugate would still be 4. That's it for that case. The sum of two or more complex numbers is obtained by adding corresponding parts. That is, we add the real parts, we add the corresponding imaginary parts. So z1 plus z2, which is represented by a plus bi, for example, plus c plus di. Although, as I said, you can use your calculator in adding. This is a very simple process. You don't need the calculator anymore. But if you want to check, use your calculator. So a plus bi, z1 plus z2, a plus bi plus c plus di is quantity a plus c. Add the corresponding real part, then quantity b plus d times I by adding the corresponding imaginary part. So next is the product of two complex numbers is obtained by applying distributive law of multiplication over addition. So by the way, these are practice problems. I want you to answer this because the problems are provided with answers. So the product of two complex numbers is obtained by applying distributive law of multiplication over addition. In general, the principle on getting the product of polynomial applies here. So you may also use your calculator and set the calculator in the complex mode, and you can operate product, addition of complex numbers. But in this case, z1, z2 is equal to quantity if z1 is represented by a plus ei and z2 is represented by c plus di. We simply apply the principle on distributive law of multiplication over addition. So that is a times c, ac. We have like terms AC, ADI, and BCI. So that's why we have AD plus BC times I. And the last term would be BI times DI, which is BDI squared. And since I squared is negative 1, that's why we have minus BD here. The product of complex number and its conjugate is always a positive real number. So for instance, z1 times z1 prime, the conjugate number is denoted by z prime, is equal to a squared plus b squared. So if z1 is quantity a plus bi and z1 prime is a minus bi, take note that if we apply this, we have negative abi and positive abi. That's why this becomes 0. So that's why a equals c, so a square and minus bd. So that's why we have this is negative b square I square, and I square is negative 1. So that becomes positive b square. So that's the reason. Then division of complex numbers is done by multiplying the numerator and the denominator by the conjugate of the denominator. Although you can easily do this if you have your calculator. Calculators are scientific rotation calculators or high-tech calculator nowadays can be used in operating complex numbers. So that is a plus bi over c plus di. We copy the original fraction, then we multiply and divide this by the conjugate of the denominator, which is c minus di over c minus di. The denominator is, of course, c square plus d square, and in the numerator, operate it in the same manner as this. So that's why it's an easy job. Two complex numbers, z1 and z2, are equal if their corresponding real and imaginary parts are also equal. So that is, if this is z1 and this is z2, they are equal if a equals c and b equals d. So that's the principle for that case. So this is the last part. Again, we have here a practice problem. I want you to answer this using the principle. So next, although these prime numbers were already discussed in the preceding algebra 0, let's have a repeat here because we have additional concept to be considered. So prime numbers, prime number with just no other factors other than itself and 1. So I want you to familiar with prime numbers between 2 to 97, the last prime number less than 100, and I hope that you can identify or you can determine whether or not a given prime number greater than 2 digits is prime by extracting the square root. So prime numbers that differ by 2 are called twin primes. Example of this would be 3 and 5, 5 and 7, 11 and 13, just to name a few for twin primes. So to determine whether or not a given number is a prime number, obtain the square root of that number, then divide the given original number by prime numbers between 2 to the nearest prime number less than the square root of the given original number. But of course, we do not consider 2 and 5 because when the number is divisible by 2 or divisible by 5, it's of use. So, simplify the expression 2i to the 510 2i to the 510 minus I to the 1027 plus 1 square. 510, it is 508, that is divisible by 4. So 508, I to the 508 is 1, 500, I to the 509, I to the 510, negative 1. So therefore, this is negative 1. So that means this is 2 times negative 1 plus I to the 1027. It is 1028 that is divisible by 4. So it is 1. Therefore, if this is I to the 1028, it is here, that is I to the 1027, which is negative I. So this is minus 1, and since I to the 1027 is negative I, so that's negative I. Negative 1 times negative I plus 1. Since 1 minus 2 is negative 1, and this is positive I raised to 2, so this reduces to negative 1 plus I, or yes, negative 1 plus I square. So this is 1 minus twice the product 2I. I square is negative 1. So the result is negative 2I. So the answer here is negative 2I. Then example 8, if quantity x plus yi times 2 minus 4i equals 14 minus 8i, find x. You also find y. So the answer is 3. I want you to answer that. So these are applications of the preceding approach. So you apply this because I demonstrated example on determining whether a given number is prime or not. So you have to show that 811 is a prime number. How many prime numbers are there between 200 and 210? So there are none. 201 is not a prime number. 202, of course. 203 is also not a prime number up to 200. 210 is also not a prime number. So show that there is no prime number between 200 and 210. Then this is the last topic on significant figures. There are 3 rules here. Rule number 1, zeros between 2 significant figures are significant. So examples in 4 significant figures are 1.003, 2.09. So these are zeros between 2 significant figures. So use red. So these are zeros between 2 significant figures, so they are significant. That's why these values are 4 significant figures. This 0 is significant, but these zeros here are insignificant because of rule number 2. Rule number 2, for values less than 1, zeros immediately to the right of the decimals are insignificant. So examples to three significant figures are the following: 0.00281. Only 281 are significant. These are insignificant. 0.340, 3 significant figures, insignificant. This is significant by rule number 3. insignificant, significant from rule number 1, so 3 significant figures. Rule number 3, zeros placed at the last place of decimal numbers are significant. So examples to two significant figures are the following. We have 0.002, so this is significant. This has two significant